of Lord Sri Chaitanya Dev and are delivering these Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4. Sati quits her body. Text number 29. Okay. Got a split page here, so maybe I'll do it this way. Aho Anatyam Mahat Asya Pasyata Prajapati Yasya Characharam Praja Jaham Asun Yat Vimata Atmaja Sati Manasvini Manam Abhikshnam Arhat Aho Anatyam Mahad Asya Pasyata Prajapatir Yasya Characharam Praja Jahav Asunyad Vimatat Majasati Manasvini Manam Abhikshanam Marati Aho Anatyam Mahad Asya Pasyata Prajapatir Yasya Characharam Praja Jahav Asunyad Vimatat Majasati Manasvini Manam Abhikshanam Arhati Bhikshanam Aho Natyam Mahad Asya Pasyata Prajapatir Yasya Characharam Praja Jahava Sunyad Vimatat Majasati Bhikshanam Manasvini Manam Abhikshanam Arhati. God Almighty. Karina, you'd like to try? Aho, oh, anatnyam, neglect, mahat, great, asya, of daksha, pasyata, just see, Pajapate, of the Pajapati, Yasya, of whom, Chara all living entities, Praja, offspring, Jaho, gave up, Asun, her body, Yat, by whom, Vimata, disrespected, Atmaja, his own daughter, Sati, Sati, voluntarily, Abhikshanam, repeatedly, Arhati, deserved. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter, Sati, who was not only chaste, but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. Report by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON's founder. The word anapnya is significant. Apnya means the life of the soul. So this word indicates that although Daksha appeared to be living, actually he was a dead body. Otherwise, how could he neglect Sati, who was his own daughter? It was the duty of Daksha to look after the maintenance and comforts of all living entities because he was situated as Prajapati, the governor of all living entities. Therefore, how is it that he neglected his own daughter, who was the most exalted and chaste woman, a great soul, and who therefore deserved the most respectful treatment from her father? The death of Sati, because of her being neglected by Daksha, her father, was most astonishing to all the great demigods of the universe. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Dina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mayam Dadati Svapanantiham Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Ragnatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpa Tirubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Ditanam Pamanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dibyad Vrindaranya Kalpachumata Shrimad Ratnagara Singha Sanasto Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prastalabi Savyamano Smarami in the Temple of Jewels underneath the desire trees of Vrindavan, seated upon an effulgent throne, the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Govinda are served most respectfully and lovingly by their eternal servants. We beg to offer our respectful obeisances unto them. Aho anatnyam mahad asya pasyata prajapateryasya characharam praja jav asunyad vitmat Vimat Vimat Maja Sati Manasvini Manum Abhikshanam Marhati. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter, Sati, who was not only chaste but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. So this is Maitreya Muni speaking this. Of course, this pastime is spoken to Vidura by Maitreya Muni. So the step-by-step reporting of what actually happened is completed. And now Maitreya is weighing in and presenting his realization and insight into the activity of Daksha here. And it is such a very stark and shocking comparison to who Daksha as a Prajapati, what his duty and responsibility is, and the word, very important word being used here, neglect and disrespectful. And to who? Two important points. One, understand your own daughter. Describe that the daughter takes the qualities of the father. Prabhupada says in another place that the daughter is particularly dear to the father. He's always thinking of her. Even after she's married and goes to her husband's house. And we see if there's any problem for daughter, then who's going to come? Does it say there's any problem like we see today? Domestic abuse. The father and the brothers are going to come, or they should, or that's the natural response, and set the thing right. So out of his envy, not so much of Lord Shiva, but ultimately it was ascertained his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, whom Lord Shiva is the qualitative expansion. And the example given is how milk is transformed into yogurt. You can't say that yogurt didn't come from the milk. It most certainly did, although in its transfigured position, it is different. That is the way we understand Lord Shiva. Even Lord Brahma in his Brahma Samhita gives a verse with that analogy. And not just his own daughter, but she was a great soul. Great soul. Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashrita. Great souls are absorbed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Just as Lord Shiva, to the untrained or unsophisticated eye, might not understand how he's engaged in greatly responsible and extremely merciful activities for the sake of all living entities, become bewildered, as Daksha did, by his external appearance and characteristics and so-called unclear or difficult to understand activities. What is that? One can never understand the mind of a Vaishnava unless one, Prabhupada says, one cannot understand who is the pure devotee unless one happens to be a pure devotee himself. We'll see later in this canto, Lord Shiva, he's revealing his heart in confidence to the saintly sons of Prachanivari, the Prachetas, that actually those who were my devotees, but one who was a devotee of my beloved Lord Krishna, they're very, very dear to me. And because of your devotional service, I've come here to give you the confidential revelation how to worship Krishna in Vrindavan, which is the culmination of Lord Shiva's instructions in that beautiful last chapter of this canto, 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. So Sati, she is the corresponding Shakti of Lord Shiva, as we are hearing. She gave up the body connected with Daksha, and she's going to take another body immediately to continue her eternal association with Lord Shiva. John Lennon and Yoko Ono, they came to Srila Prabhupada. You are a great mystic. You are a greatly powerful spiritual personality. Use your power that we can, they didn't even say, please bless us. Use your power so that we can be eternally related together in this relationship, husband or wife or whatever it was. Excuse me. And Srila Prabhupada said, that is not my position. God gives you this life, and it is meant to achieve self-realization. He told them quite plainly, this relationship of husband and wife is ephemeral. It is temporary. It has nothing to do with your real selves. But in the case of Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga, Sati, Parvati, those were worshippers of Durga. They have various holidays. There's Navaratri, where they're worshiping 9 different manifestations of Goddess Durga. And you can go to Durga temples. There's one very renowned, well-known temple in Vrindavan called Katyayani Mandir. The gopis, they're worshiping Goddess Durga as Katyayani. And I believe that when Sati, what's the word? Emolliorate? Some of the ashes fell on that spot. So this is a spot in Vrindavan. Shakti Pit, that's right. And there are different activities, different names are there. So, just like the devotee of the Lord, the pure devotee of the Lord, the bona fide spiritual master, they take another birth to continue their activity of preaching and distributing Lord Chaitanya's message in this Kali Yuga. Even Srila Prabhupada was asked, where will you go next? And purportedly, or it was described by some disciples, I will be going to the lower planets. And it is the desire of the disciple. He who gave me eyes to see is my Lord, birth after birth. This means that the disciple and the spiritual master, their relationship is eternal. And the ultimate desire of the disciple is to be eternally situated in the service of the spiritual master. And so great is that devotional service that it doesn't matter heaven or hell, wherever, whatever. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by which ignorance is destroyed. Ignorance, material desire, lack of knowledge of the glory of devotional service, how it transcends all time and space. The devotee of the Lord is so empowered that he can create the Vrindavan atmosphere wherever the Lord wishes him to be situated by or because of his pure and empowered devotional service. Wherever the pure devotee is situated becomes a glorious holy tirtha. We see the activities of Srila Prabhupada wherever he went. It became a beehive of devotional activity to upgrade and upscale and just increase the worship of the Lord and the devotional service in that place for the pleasure of their beloved spiritual master. So the pure love of the devotee for the other devotees, which is epitomized in the highest sense between the spiritual master and his disciples, this is the complete opposite of neglect. It is complete adherence to the need and fulfillment of the desire of the other, which is what everyone is looking for. Unabashed, unbridled, pure, completely trustworthy love. Srila Prabhupada secured the land in Mayapur. And at that time, the only structure on the property was a thatched cottage, which is now been maintained in the home of the Akhanda Hare Krishna Mahamantra Sankirtan in Sri Mayapur Dham. But when the movement became bigger and there was money, what was Srila Prabhupada's first utilization of that money, and for which he was criticized, not by ordinary people, but by his own godbrothers? He built a residential facility. And the deities, and this is unprecedented in Vastu and the way things are done for thousands of years, were on the ground floor, and the devotees are living above the deities. You see, Prabhupada had an office in Old Delhi. Anybody ever been to Old Delhi? Oh my goodness, it's really old. Just like you go to the far east side of Vrindavan, that's old Vrindavan, all the lanes are very tight and small. I think they've come to the logical common sense to ban automobile traffic in that section. Maybe not, but anyway, it's ridiculous. So Prabhupada's little office, which was up a flight of stairs, there was a deity below, and they erected a dome, a mandap, something, that so you wouldn't step on top of the deities. Right. Imagine you're in your room and there's like a thing right in the middle, and then you have to. Chippewa, that's the name of the place, which now is under our control or ownership, best and better than renting, and it's a very important part of Prabhupada's portfolio of Prabhupada's Leela Stan for his activities. And Prabhupada has affirmed that you will recognize your spiritual master when we go back home, back to Godhead. And even before, I will come to you and instruct you progressively based on your sincerity as you continue your devotional service through this life seemingly in separation from the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada, you read in Srila Prabhupada's purports and his own statements that we want to care for the devotees who come into his movement, the ISKCON movement. Let's keep in mind, it is Srila Prabhupada's movement that he created for the purpose of giving shelter to ultimately everyone. The 6-volume Leela Amrita came out very quickly, all 6 volumes, by 1982, Kartik, on the 5th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. A monumental feat, all 6 volumes, great detail. So the need to make a 1 volume, which for Sasru Maharaj and his longtime servant Baladev is a very difficult task to, the cutting room floor, what are we going to chop off, But anyway, it's a 1 volume book. I remember distributing tens of thousands of them when it came out. He built a house in which your ever well-wisher, he built a house in which the whole world could live. And Prabhupada would say someone would have trouble and problems and come out with blurt out all kinds of anxiety. That you come live with us. We will solve all your problems. Of course, correspondingly, the temples are not a place for lazy and crazy fellows who are useless both for material and spiritual purposes. Yet at the same time, Prabhupada, particularly our farm communities, he said you have to be ready to receive the people who will flee the cities. It's even predicted. The symptoms of Kali Yuga, you can read in the 2nd and 3rd chapter, the 12th canto, Maharaj Parikshit, the last instructions of Shukadeva Goswami, the Maharaj Parikshit, before the imminent, the 7 days was coming to an end. The prediction of the curse, the pronouncement of the curse was soon to come. And the culmination of all those instructions, the very famous and important, I believe it's verse number 52 or 53 of the Bhumi Gita, 3rd chapter, 12th canto. Kaler dosa nadera jan hasti eka mahagunat kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vijay. Although this ocean of Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, the one good quality of taking shelter of Krishna Nam Rup Avatar, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, not only does it cancel out all the faults, but it makes this the best of ages by extraordinary and astonishing comparison, even to Satya Yuga, the age of truth. And Lord Ramachandra, he appeared in the Treta Yuga, where things start at 75% and degrade down to 50%, ultimately. Satya Yuga, 100% to 75%. Dwapara Yuga, beginning, and the Battle of Kurukshetra was at the end of Dwapara Yuga, 50% to 25%. And now Kali Yuga, 25% to 0. So how kind is Krishna that he arranges his pure devotee to come in this worst of all ages. And Krishna himself comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not just to perform the activities of the Yuga avatar, to Parichanaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Traduskritam, but to come and give the topmost, highest facility, Golokera Prema Nana, Harinam Sankirtan. The highest facility, the highest living facility, the highest living status, Goloka Vrindavan, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Wow. We have great devotees like Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Pad, who of course is the incarnation of the scholarly Astasakti Tungavidya, that what Lord Chaitanya has come to give, if you don't take advantage of it, your deliverance will not be for many, 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 many millions of years. See how Srila Prabhupada worked with such urgency. Was it being mentioned? It was mentioned in a recent class that Prabhupada's utilization of time is to the second. Very careful utilization of all the time that he had. This is a little description from Her Grace Govindadasi in her memoir book, A Place of Sandalwood and Roses. Describing her love for Srila Prabhupada and his reciprocal love for her and all of the disciples. Yeah. Okay. You're galaxy center of the universe, and you are all the people. There was no one but you in my world, shining as the evening wishing star. You were everyone and everything to me. From December of 1967 to April of 1969, I was with him almost continuously, performing duties as his cook, secretary, servant, and general housekeeper. I made his breakfast, washed his laundry, took dictation and typed his letters, transcribed his books, and cleaned his bathroom, while my husband gave him massages both morning and evening. During that time, the doors of spiritual realization opened up to me in ways that I never dreamed possible. It was the best year of my life. He used to say to me and my husband, "We are just like a family." Yes, we loved him as our child, our father, our grandfather, and our guru. A wonderful mix of protective yet subservient emotions developed during that time. It is this love, these emotions, which I wish to convey the wonder of living in the presence of such a divine personality as Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's last days in Vrindavan, the Leela of his apparent physical maladies was extreme by logical calculation. No ordinary person could have been able to tolerate, what to speak of, be aloof or transcendental to such condition. Yet Srila Prabhupada was completely detached and in perfect consciousness. If everyone hasn't already, they should read the 13th chapter, the 10th canto, Prabhupada's final Śrimad Bhāgavatam dictation, and marvel at the glory and depth of those purports. There's a video clip of Srila Prabhupada speaking on his bed with Tamal Krishna, Pradyumna, and of course, Jayadvaita Swami, listening very carefully, taking Prabhupada's words, which will be made into his final Śrimad Bhāgavatam entry. So devotees would come to visit. There was a wonderful marriage of Leka Shravanti, who was the daughter of Walter Reuther, who was a very famous union leader for auto workers in Detroit. We see how it is typical that in the material world, we try to exploit other people's energy and talents. So much this calculation, all right, we get these people to work for this many years or this many hours. We want to squeeze and get as much as we can for them and pay as little as possible. It's always the case, right? So the creation of the automobile completely transformed the whole world. First automobiles in the beginning of the 1900s, then it became more viable in the 19 teens. Then finally, you have Henry Ford, for one, and he created Model T Ford. What was the year? Something in the 1920s. And like assembly line making hundreds of thousands of cars, and making it somewhat affordable for people. Anyway, so this Walter Reuther and Henry Ford, they were at loggerheads. There was even like a bloody battle in Detroit in the 1930s where they're physically fighting and murdering and wounding each other. So actually, Leka Shravanti, she wrote a biography and she describes these things. Those of you from Detroit should know this, right? Better than I do. I read the book years ago, but anyway, so the great grandson of Henry Ford becomes Ambarish, Prabhupada's very humble and submissive initiated disciple. And the daughter of Walter Reuther, then Henry Ford and Walter, they're arch enemies. And she becomes Prabhupada's disciple also, joining in Detroit, Leka Shravanti. So she's getting married to another devotee, and they want to make a gala festival at the Devasadan Bhaktivedanta Cultural Center. I was told never refer to it as the Fisher Mansion. It was like Body by Fisher. He was another big. He made bank huge, and he spent his money on so many things. This big mansion and the devotees, and actually Prabhupada had asked Ambarish and Leka Shravanti. They purchased the building, so they asked Ambarish to be the best man of the wedding. And then Mukunda Maharaj, who was at that time in charge of ISKCON communication, they made a big thing about it, the publicity, like, Ford and Reuther come together, it's like everything, Time Magazine, Life Magazine, everything, NBC, CBS, all the reporters came, and it was international news. And Prabhupada came to hear of it in Vrindavan, and they spent something like $25,000 on the wedding. And some devotees criticized this. What's such a huge amount of money for a wedding? And when Prabhupada said this, they spent their money very well, very good. And when the temple president and another one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Govardhan and Udayananda, they came to visit Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was the main attendant, he told them beforehand, this is like in October, Prabhupada's going to depart the next month, that, get ready, you're going to be seeing Prabhupada, and this is a very, prepare yourself, don't cry, don't wail, don't become emotional. We don't want to disturb Srila Prabhupada's mood. Said, okay, we're ready. But they went in, and Govardhan in particular, he just lost it. He just couldn't, and he's like sobbing. He's like controlling, so he's not making a sound. Udayananda Prabhu had enough wherewithal to, and Prabhupada says, "Oh, you're coming from Detroit? How is Lake Shravanti? How is Ambarish? The wedding was so wonderful." And they just came from the airport. They just immediately came in. Are your rooms in the guest house all right? Is the prasadam okay? Is everyone in Detroit? Are they happy? Are they chanting Hare Krishna? It was just like mind-blowing. Prabhupada in this condition, and he's not in the slightest concern for himself. He's only concerned for the well-being of his disciples. And that Krishna consciousness is spread far and wide to help as many people as possible. Brahmananda Prabhu, similarly, he caught some type of flu or something, and he was absent for 1 week. And then he finally came into Prabhupada's room, and his vision was going away, and Brahmananda was chanting, and Prabhupada said, "Who is that?" "Oh, it's Brahmananda." And he called Brahmananda, "Are you all right? Is your illness over? You were gone for a week." And Brahmananda just started to cry, I just have a little flu. I'm like in my 30s, and you're. So this is the complete opposite of Prajapati Daksha. So our Krishna consciousness movement, our track record in taking care of devotees has not been so good after Prabhupada's departure, or even during. There's the story of she was the wife of Surabi before he took sannyas in Vrindavan. She's French, Kishori, and she followed the general instruction of the time: send your children to Gurukul, I believe in Dallas, far, far away. And it came to light, the abuse that her children suffered. And she was just so upset. She came to Prabhupada in Bombay. Yes, they were building Bombay and then Vrindavan later on. And there was a very high-level meeting in Prabhupada's quarters with contractors and government officials and leading GBC men. And she just come bursting in, and Prabhupada could immediately see her position, see her anxiety. And he gave her the full attention. And she just blurted out what happened. You could hear her memory. And Prabhupada just was so upset that this happened. So children, women, devotees being abused, being neglected, we have to do better. Devotees give their entire life to Krishna consciousness, and there has to be some way to take care of them in their old age, in sickness. We should not have the attitude like the materialist, whatever we can get out of people, and then, bring in new people to fill in the ranks when they can't work anymore. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter, Sati, who was not only chaste, but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. So devotees giving up devotional service because of neglect or because of mistreatment. This is a stain on Srila Prabhupada's movement and very much displeasing to him. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Subhadra, you have something to add from your many decades of experience navigating the ISKCON movement, riding the waves? From Australia, surfer's paradise. You would think in the paradise of the surfers that the surfers who are experiencing the paradise are expert surfers. We call it surfers' expertise.
A lot of famous surfers from that
I can't
area.
hear.
A lot of famous surfers from that area. Very world famous.
I still can't
A lot
hear.
of famous surfers from that area.
I'm sure.
I was just remembering that in the Prabhupada Lilamrita it said,
Try bringing it closer.
I don't think this is working.
Oh,
I remember them saying that,
you have to speak as loud as you can.
I remember the doctors saying that any normal person would be crying out in constantly crying out in pain in that situation where Prabhupada was towards the end.
Yeah.
And then I also remember, that book that you were talking about, the abridged version of the Prabhupada Lilamrita.
Yeah.
In Australia, that was just called Prabhupada.
Uh-huh.
That was the first book that I got.
It was called Prabhupada, but then they had to underside you built house the whole world could live.
And that was the first book that I got, along with Bhagavad Gita. But I couldn't understand Bhagavad Gita at all. So I really got my inspiration, particularly from that book, reading about Srila Prabhupada's life and example.
Yeah, the relationship with the pure devotee is essential. And yeah, many devotees had that feeling as well, a difficult philosophy in the beginning, but the love coming from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, was just so irresistible and so attractive and so soothing and so an all-encompassing panacea. It's like Srila Prabhupada, upon the first meeting with Govinda Dasi and Gaura Sundar, Mukunda ushers them in to Prabhupada's apartment, beautiful San Francisco apartment, bay windows, with sunlight coming in, and Prabhupada sitting in a rocking chair, already looking effulgent. And they just come out with all their anxiety. I'm going to get drafted into the Vietnam War. We don't find any truth anywhere. Things are hypocrisy. We drove all the way from University of Texas in Austin, and we thought we were going to find something here, but it's just a drugged out madness, here in Haight-Ashbury, and on and on. And Prabhupada, he just listened, and he's smiling. The more that they come out, the more they get worked up by describing their anxiety, the more he starts beaming and smiling. And he simply says, "You simply come to my classes and everything will be all right. All your problems will be solved." And it's like, I don't, unbelievable, But because there's such an incredible personality before them, they believed him, yes. And you know what? He was right. Anything else?
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. I want to ask one question. More for myself, you talked about the urgency that Srila Prabhupada felt in spreading this movement, and even the fact that in his next life he's continuing on with other planetary systems. That's his determination. So how can I get a greater sense of urgency in myself to actually help Srila Prabhupada's movement and not take it for granted, and take responsibility for it?
Everything in Prabhupada's movement is meant to have you ascertain things in proper proportion. So, especially in the beginning of one's devotional life, one should absorb Srila Prabhupada's instructions, his books, and everything, and you will see through the eyes of Shastra, become Shastra Chakshush. And then the comparison between life in the spiritual energy in activities of bhakti yoga, pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the ocean of material desire and illusion that everybody is drowning in, will be all the stark and readily perceivable, and that will help you to organize your energies and everything in such a way that you can meet that urgency as it exists in truth and reality. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I think we've gone over time. Thank you very much.